Welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast, the ultimate blueprint to self-love and inner peace. I'm your host, Danielle Van. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach, meditation teacher, and author, it is my passion and goal to help you build your mindset and create a lifelong revolution. Being stuck in anything, an emotion, a thought process, an experience sucks. But the truth is, many times when we are stuck, it's because of behaviors we are exhibiting, continuing to lean into, and simply choosing. If you feel stuck right now, there is a way out, but it does mean that you have to do some self-evaluation and choose something different. Today, we're taking a one-on-one deep dive into the behaviors of stuck, so you may recognize the things that you're doing are working against you. Without understanding, accepting how we play a role in our lives, we can change nothing. So let's get right to it. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. This podcast, what I teach, what I write, what I put out on social media, what I talk about during live conversations, whether on Instagram, Facebook, Insight Timer, is all about the behaviors, the thought processes, the emotional processes that help you move forward in your life. What I see so often is people who consider themselves stuck, losers, failures, incapable of living this big, wild, beautiful life that they hope is available to them, but are quite certain that it's not. And in this uncertainty, there are some behaviors that are so telling that I can, with almost exact certainty, say, if you remain in these behaviors, in these thought processes, in these emotions, you will continue to live a life that not only drains you emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. It drains your motivation. It changes your ability to have really good relationships because you focus on the wrong thing altogether and you create self-fulfilling prophecies of failure. That's hard to hear, but we need to talk about the things, these 18 habits that keep you forever in stuck. I have air quotes going. Stuck is something that I don't believe is permanent. I believe that the behavior can be permanent, but the stuck feeling is not, right? Nobody's holding you in place other than yourself. So let's get down to these behaviors. Instead of me giving you behavior modifications for each one of these, I want to first identify if this is you. And then I want you to think about how draining these things are for you and what you should be doing to get out of them. Because everything in every episode that I've put down are actual counter to these things. They teach you how to get out of these things. But if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like life is just not working out for you, you are constantly in victimhood, understand that the obstacle, the barrier is you. Ugh, it stings, doesn't it? It hurts. It's like, oh, please, no more. But it's true. So let's get down to it. The first one is the people who feel unsuccessful, the people who feel stuck in their lives, the people who constantly feel like life is out to get them, complain a lot about their lives. Literally, everything feels bad. It's chronic. We see this lens of victimhood, these obstacles of unsurmountable behaviors and barriers that instead of really being challenges to overcome, they are the wall and the roadblock. They act as if everything in life is out to get them and they've never had a good day ever. We have a joke in our family. We have someone who every time we go out to eat, you'll say, how was it? It was terrible. It's this constant complaint that nothing is good enough. And anytime you feel like something's not good enough, guess what? It's not. You will constantly find this sense of failure, this sense of loss or failure or incompleteness that's always in everything. So this is a habit that truly keeps people on the outer edges. It's a habit that constantly has you radiating negativity. It has you focusing on the wrong things, and it has you in a space where you're constantly using energy in a negative fashion. So if you're complaining a lot in life, understand that your stuckness is about what you're doing. And when we feel stuck, there's something that naturally happens as well. And it is number 2 on the list. And it is that you easily give up. When the tough gets going, you bow out, right? You find the door. When people throw in the towel at the first sign of adversity, it shows me that they have a fragile mindset, that they are used to defeat, that they don't have a lot of excellent problem-solving skills. They don't have a sense of resiliency, and they really don't care about the long-term outcome. What they care most about is the short-term discomfort. When you give up really easily, understand that you have put a full stop sign in the middle of the road where there was just a piece of trash that you should have navigated around. The lack of persistency really stems from a weak mindset that says, I am not good enough. And that sounds harsh. That if I'm telling myself that that's a weak mindset, I want you to make the leap with me for just a second. If you are trashing your worth, you are weakening the thought process. Does that make sense? Remember, the greatest achievements always are preceded by tons of failure, by tons of setback. You should never avoid failure. You should never avoid discomfort. If you give up easily, you will constantly feel stuck. You have to understand that if we give up, we can never get going. Number 3 on our list is that you ignore feedback. Feedback is hard, right? Because it can cross the line to criticism really, really easily. And that's really hard. It's hard to hear what someone has to say about us when they're perceiving something or seeing something from a different place. But if we ignore feedback that's healthy, what we're doing is we're dismissing outside perspectives that could be very valuable to us. They can help us course correct or avoid any pitfalls. Instead of connecting to every little inch of feedback in a negative way, limiting our opportunities for improvement, we can say, what is in this for me? If we plug our ears to well-intentioned advice, convincing ourselves that everybody's out to get us, we create that. We create pushback. We create problems, which leads me to the next behavior. You have an excuse for everything. First, it's the complaining, then you refuse to hear, and now you have an excuse as to why you can't do something. I would rather, but I can't because. Whatever it is, excuse makers are the masters at conjuring up reasons why they can't tackle a challenge. And honestly, it's BS. The amount of time, mental energy, emotional energy, and just resources that you have to create in your mind to get out of whatever it is that you don't want to do, you could have used to just do the thing. Seriously. It's a habit of trying to hide under a false sense of comfort. By convincing yourself and then others that you can't do something, you refuse to confront your own fears or your insecurities. You create this narrative of being helpless, which is also BS, and you refuse to move forward. Whether it's a lack of time or resources or limitations or trauma, understand that conjuring up reasons why you can't do something creates the instruction to the mind to not do it. And yet you're creating the self-imposed prison. You don't have to do the work because you've already told people you are not capable. And after a bit of time, people stop coming to you. And it's then that you're going to be like, nobody actually asked me for my opinion or to show up or to do these things. And we complain again, instead of realizing that you are the master of getting in your own way. Excuses are ways to not show up. If you feel stuck, it's because you're excusing yourself from doing so. And then, of course, there's overanalyzing every single thing, which is paralysis by analysis. It's quicksand for the mind. It's a trap for feeling stuck. It's a trap for chronic overthinkers and chronic people with anxiety. It is where every single little outcome must be dissected into every single little outcome, and we have to weigh our pros and cons ad nauseum until we long let the opportunity pass us. Why? If you feel stuck and you're spending so much time in this rumination, understand that you're not stuck. You're saying goodbye to opportunities. The fear of making the wrong choice or the wrong decision becomes so overwhelming that there's no choice at all. And I get it. It's hard when we have a million different things on our plate and we're not sure of what's going to help us. Understand that we can get into a space that it's just fight or flight. I get that. But if you constantly are in this habit of hampering your own personal progress, you are the one who is putting the strain on yourself. Not the outside environment, not the parents that you want to blame, not the best friend, not the relationship that you have or that has ended, not your kids, not your boss, not anything else other than you. You are in charge of how you show up. The environment, the emotions can, of course, alter and even course correct the way that you want to make progress. But honestly, if you can't make a decision, you are the provider of your own stuck. And then, if we haven't made a decision, it gives free license to procrastination. Now, understand, if you're emotionally exhausted, you're much more likely to procrastinate. You don't have the emotional energy. And procrastination is pretty nasty because we put off the important things, convincing us that we're going to be more inspired tomorrow. But the truth is, if you feel the need to do something and you're putting it off, it's going to be much more likely that the task will remain undone, either leaving you to scramble last minute or not scrambling at all. This habit of delaying is a major roadblock for those who are stuck in their lives. It's constantly deferring. It's constantly opting out. It's constantly leaning into short-term comfort instead of long-term progress. And it's funny because the people who procrastinate the most, when they come see me, they're like, I didn't do this and I've created such a mess for myself and I don't know why I do that. And then we start walking through these pieces and all of it comes down to avoiding discomfort. I don't want to get started because I'm afraid I'm going to fail. Is that a reason to not start? I don't want to do this because I know it's going to be tricky or it's going to be hard and I'm under so much pressure as it is. Then you have to evaluate what you really want out of it. Is it necessary? Are you sure that you are ready to take on the task? Everything in your life doesn't have to be pressured. Not everything in your life needs to be left undone. If you procrastinate, you are leaving yourself in a space that you will never get anywhere because you're too busy not going anywhere. Does that make sense? And there's the opposite side of that. Doing nothing. The opposite is overcommitting. Overcommitment is literally kryptonite to productivity. It weakens our best intentions. It's that space where we bite off so much that we can't chew, and then we become drowning in unfulfilled promises and half-completed tasks. This tendency often stems from misguided attempts to people please, to hurry and rush, to try to move through fear and not say no. It's a lack of boundaries. It's spreading yourself too thin. It's burnout and stress and repetition and not being reliable or accountable to our own personal promises. It's also a trauma response, of course. But if you feel stuck and you are simply too overcommitted, understand that something has to go. If you feel stuck and you feel like all you do is give to other people, something has to go. You have to navigate these things and decide what's worth my time, what's worth my energy. And in that, you cannot engage in number 8, which is the negative self-talk. The mind. The mind can't take it. It absorbs everything. It doesn't know what's positive or negative. It just knows what is. And so if you're relentless in your inner conversation, you're poisoning your mind. I want to say that again. If you are relentless in your negative conversation with the self, you're poisoning your mind. If you poison your mind, you're poisoning your emotional body. If you poison the mind and the emotional body, you're poisoning the nervous system. If you poison the mind and the emotional body and the nervous system, you are poisoning the physical body. Everything goes downhill from there. Sure, you can be your worst enemy all day long, but constantly berating yourself over past mistakes or doubting your abilities. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. Why do I even bother? Everyone always does this to me. Are mental mantras that says you will fail. You will be stuck. You will simply have no self-esteem. You will never be successful. This habit not only zaps you of motivation, it allows yourself to create walls that should not exist. This is the greatest form of self-sabotage. And let me tell you, it's very difficult to overcome. It's destructive. It challenges you in a way that is so unnecessary. If you want to get out of stuck, you have to clean up that conversation. If you want to get out of stuck and you want to move forward, you have to understand that how you talk to yourself is as important as the action you need to take to move forward. Sometimes it's more important. You have to be willing to do that kind of work too. Number 9 on our list is that people who feel stuck don't use their time wisely. They don't manage their time effectively. Whether they make a mistake in their busyness of productivity, filling their days with low-value tasks, things that don't actually matter, or they find themselves constantly putting out fires that are counter to their progress, right? We waited too long, and now this poor time management has caused me to feel stuck, forever chasing the clock, never catching up, feeling overwhelmed, underfulfilled, blah, 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 right? When we don't effectively manage our time, what can we get done? Those who feel stuck have a hard time managing. And in that lack of management, there's something else that also happens, and it is the mindset of short term. What does that mean? Short-term thinkers are on hamster wheels. They expend their energy in every different way, in every different place. They are looking for immediate gratification. They never really stop and reflect on the long-term consequences of their actions. It's like starting a business because something else didn't go right, and you put all of your energy into building a website, doing the things, getting bookings, going to the different places, all of this stuff. And then when it doesn't turn out the way you thought it was going to, the first time you're out, the first time you open your doors or you go to the market to set up or whatever it is, and you don't have immediate gratification, guess what? You can't see a vision past this moment because all you did was think in short term. Financially, a lot of people will rack up credit card debt instantly because they need instant gratification instead of future stability. Professionally, they may try to climb the ladder super fast, looking for growth opportunities that are in this moment, not thinking about, hey, if I slow down and do this, this, and this, I will have long-term success. By failing to put a plan in place, you set yourself up for struggle. You set yourself up for building a foundation in quicksand instead of something that isn't made out of poor decisions. Short-term thinkers really work against themselves when they have the power to work for themselves. When we can't work for ourselves, of course, we feel stuck. Number 11 is we don't set clear goals. Without a destination in mind, where are you going? Right? If you're stuck, and I hear things like this all the time, I just want to be happy. You know what I want? I often will tell people to give me a firm statement. Give me a thesis statement on what you want. And I will often just get these one-liners. I just want to be happy. No, that doesn't give me enough. That's not clear enough. It's not sustainable enough. It lacks direction. And if something's lacking direction, one, you're stuck and your efforts are scattered. You make minimal progress if you don't have a sensible goal. If you can't manage and track the improvements that you're making every single day, guess what? You're going to feel stuck. You're not going to feel like you're making progress because, truthfully, you're not. And if you're not making progress, it's very likely that you're also not taking care of yourself, which is number 12 on our list. In this relentless pursuit of instant gratification, of success, many people neglect what is so important, themselves. Self-care, as you've heard me talk about, go back and listen to the self-care episode, is not about bubble baths. It's not about spa days or getting your nails done. It's about maintaining your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and emotional health. We wear exhaustion like a badge. I did it when I was younger. I get it. It's easy to do, especially if you're someone who has a lot of trauma. But we mistake our burnout for dedication. We skip meals. We sacrifice our sleep. We ignore the stress signs that our bodies are giving to us. We think of exercise as a luxury. Relaxation is laziness. If we fail to realize that self-care is not selfish, that we have to have it, we are going to have decreased productivity. We're going to have impaired decision-making because we haven't slept. We are going to have risk of mental, emotional, and physical disruptions and health issues. We have to understand that if we overlook what is the most important factor of all things, us, we are going to remain stuck. Because without us, nothing's getting done. With that, let's move to the next one, which is these people who feel like you are most stuck fail to engage in looking inward. It's like trying to navigate on the road without a map, and it's going to a place that you've never been before. We have to pause, reflect, look inward, find our motivation, find our direction. If we lack self-awareness, we are going to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. We're going to miss the same opportunities over and over and over again. If we fail to recognize that our behavior is the root cause of the majority of our challenges, understand we don't make change. Let that sit. Let it hit you in the throat. Let it sit in your chest and then your stomach. If I choose to not look at my patterns and see that I am the root cause, I am creating my own problems. You have to be willing to look inward. You have to be willing to understand that your mind, your body, your emotional health, all of this is a roadmap to where you want to go. You should be consulting the map. If you don't listen, you're going to feel stuck. And if you don't listen, guess what? You're most likely to not take responsibility. It's the blame game. It's because of this, or they did that, or I can't get myself, together because this happened around me or to me. It's always the space of finding fault for your circumstances, whether it's the economy or bad luck or your upbringing, your parents, your boss, blah, blah, blah. Again, and I don't mean to be dismissive with the blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying the excuses become so heavy that it's crippling because you refuse to not look at the fact that you have a choice. You have a choice, period. You have a choice. It's exhausting so often to listen to people talk about their problems. And I just mean this in a general way, not in a therapy way, but listening to someone that talk about their problems. And when you say, well, what do you want to do about it? And they say, I don't know. I just feel like I don't have a choice. Or I don't know. I don't even know how I got here. Or I don't know, if so-and-so would stop doing this, it wouldn't be a problem. True empowerment comes when you respect and take responsibility for both successes and failures. If you acknowledge that you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control your response, you then take responsibility, which means that you're claiming control, which means you're not stuck. So think about that. You can blame whatever you want to, but if you constantly are looking for someone else to take care of your feelings, of the way you're showing up, the things that happen, they're going to do it in the way that best serves them, not you. You have to take responsibility. And if you do take responsibility, please learn from your mistakes. Please. Life is the ultimate teacher. We're here to learn. You are a student of your life. And if you choose to not be a student, guess what? You are doomed to make the same mistakes over and over again. This is the very definition of being trapped in a cycle. When you choose to see just your experiences as negative or positive, but you don't extract the lesson, you don't reflect on what you need to, over time, we feel more and more stuck. We hamper our personal growth. We see the same obstacles over and over again, and we refuse to learn. Which then brings us to number 16 on the list, which is we run from our problems. Running from your problems is like trying to outrun your shadow. I mean, you can try, but it's not going to happen. Unaddressed problems snowball. They don't just go away. It's like emotions. They just sit and wait. If you're constantly running from challenge after challenge, who has time and energy to put that, deep learning and growth factor on themselves? No one does. The key to breaking this is understanding that you can see the problems that you have, make a decision, reframe your challenge as a growth factor instead of a threat that has to be avoided, and then develop resiliency, because the only way through anything is through it. It's not around it or under it or above it. It's through it. And if you run from your problems, you're always going to be stuck. And most people run because they refuse to take a risk, which is number 17. Life has rewards for those who refuse to live in their comfort zone. You've heard that before. But when we don't take risk, we're basically putting ourselves in a box, and we do everything possible to keep this death grip on the box. We become paralyzed by being unfulfilled, right? In the job that sucks, stagnant in the relationship that sucks, being in a space where we just feel like we're never going to get to the dream home, the dream thing, the dream job. We make mistakes for our safety, we think, instead of realizing that the world around us is always adapting and changing, and we have the ability to do that too. When we have an aversion to risk, not only do we limit ourselves, we stunt our ability for growth. If you don't want change, stay exactly where you are, right? Life's going to change, but you don't necessarily have to. You can stay in this mindset that doesn't work for you. When you decide to get out of it, it may be too late. The opportunity could be gone. Things could have changed. You have to be willing to take a risk and bet on yourself, even when you're uncomfortable. And the last thing on the list is something you've heard me say a million times, if you've listened to this podcast, that I am a recovering one of these, and that is perfectionism. It's easy to get enticed by not taking action until everything is in order. But guess what? You're going to be disappointed because no matter what, there's a flawlessness and a flaw in everything. There's a balance, right? We can't do everything to a flawlessness. When we're striving for excellence, we strive for allowing. We strive for things that are different than what we thought they were going to be, or we strive for the things that give us satisfaction. We don't strive for it to be absolutely flawless. You spend a lot of time trying to make things shiny, and you miss the real intention of why you're doing the damn thing to begin with. These habits, whether emotionally or mentally, keep you in a space of discontentment. And so if you want to leave that space, understand we have to first recognize it. How many things on this list caught your attention? How many of these things are in your daily operation? How many of these things feel like they punched you in the throat? It's important to realize that you can change the way you show up by just changing the way you show up. You can change your life by showing up in a different way. If you feel stuck right now and you've heard all these things on this list and you can identify quite a few of them, understand it's not life that's in your way. It's you. You've got to do something about it. You have to change the rhythm. You have to be willing to stand up, make a change, and realize that stuck is a mindset. It's a weak mindset. It's filled with excuses and doubt and self-criticism. If you want to change the rhythm of your life, you must change the rhythm of your life. Whether that means you start a journaling practice to get everything out of your head and onto paper to see where you are, whether that means getting with a therapist like me or someone else in your area, whether that is going to school, whether that is deciding to change jobs, whether that is deciding to leave your relationship or start one, whatever it looks like, you are commanding your life when you are in forward movement of your life. Are you? And are you willing to lay down the things that are not working for you? Are you willing to say, I have more to do than to worry about these things that can break me? I have more to do than to be in my own way. I have more to do than to create and borrow my own trouble. When you get out of these mindsets, when you first recognize them and then put action behind them that is counter to the things you've been doing, you will create change. And that change is the essential step into getting your life together. Thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you've enjoyed these tips for bettering your life and are seeking daily inspiration and additional tools and tips, follow me on social media if you're not already on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clapper, Threads, YouTube, Insight Timer. There's so many. At Get Your Life Together Girl. And you can also visit my website at getyourlifetogethergirl.com, where there's blogs, a merch store, courses, all kinds of information. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I want to thank you once again for being the most valuable part of this community. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.